Hello, my doves. My name is Jacqueline Seven Star, and if you have come across this video, then these messages are meant for you. I have specifically charged and intended that these messages find those that are meant to find them. And today I thought I would change it up a little bit, and together we're going to do a Celtic Cross tarot spread, and these will reveal your messages. The reason why I'm doing this today is because this weekend I experienced some really intense psychic surgery. For those of you in this collective, I know you know. Sometimes when you're on the journey of return, you have to go through this psychic surgery to get into the next phase. And so is my heart bleeding all over the floor? Can you see it? No? Okay. So normally I have my journal ready and everything's very well thought out and have a lesson plan. But today is going to be off the cuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link below if you want to skip straight to the messages, because we are going to shuffle together. And I will say, when I shuffle, I channel. So sometimes I will hear something as I'm shuffling, not always, but we're going to be drawing 10 cards and having a fully fledged message for what this collective needs to hear today. Okay, let's get straight into it. Again, I'm doing the Celtic Cross tarot spread. And for those of you who have never heard of that, this is this is as old as dirt, this spread. It's been used by ancient mystics over centuries. And if you're curious, in chapter 19 of my book, I share my favorite one with you. And speaking of this book, and speaking of psychic surgery over the weekend, when I first published my book, I didn't really talk about it much. I think I maybe did one tiny little post and then I said nothing. And the reason being is because it took so much of me to write this book. And it's so much a testament of my own survival and my own truth and my authenticity. And I really believed in it. And I'm starting to question whether or not I might start speaking about it, why I wrote it, and why I think it can really help a lot of people. Especially because now it's a little bit of spite. I had someone this weekend tell me that this book was selfish and inconsiderate. And I'm like, oh boy. So if you actually, are you guys even interested in hearing the story about why I wrote that book and the process? I'm curious. You can comment and let me know. But I'm percolating just so I can say my own story. But yeah, chapter 19, you can read about the Celtic Cross. And we don't need to get into any more of that. But let's go ahead and let's do a shuffle. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a general read, meaning whatever needs to come up is what needs to come up for this collective. And usually it weaves a story and I can kind of put the threads together. So I'm going to knock my deck to get some of my energy off. I am using my Celtic tarot because I love the way that it shuffles. Also, I hesitate using it because it's very graphic, and so I'm not monetized yet, so I'm really not all that worried about it, but I may or may not show the actual pictures of the cards. Okay, there's our first card. And when I shuffle, I like things to fly out. And I always like to watch other people shuffle, because I can tell a lot about somebody by the way that they shuffle their tarot deck. So for me, you can tell I'm very fiery and it's like explosive. Like those cards fly out. And I'm already seeing flashes of orbs. For those of you who don't know me, I am a medium. And so I will sometimes see visual cues when spirit starts to come in. So I guess one of you guys have a guardian or an ancestor or a guide popping in for this reading. So I'm really curious about why. We have 3 more cards to go, and I can feel them getting very specific about which cards to use and I can tell by when I start shuffling, things don't fly out as chaotically. It's like I'll be shuffling for a little bit longer because I can tell the spirits are waiting to flick the right one. So, all right. All right. Ooh, okay. All right. 2? No. Okay, well, it's interesting to me. I'm going to put the, and we got 11 cards instead of 10. But let me tell you, so the ancient Celtic Cross Tarot spread originally was 11 cards because it requires a significant, I can never say that word, but a significator. A significanter. Oh boy. So yeah, and that usually kind of represented the person that you were doing the reading for. So you can actually go to like a lot of ancient, like hermetic texts that have more of the original Celtic cross. I like to do more of a modern version of it because I found it to be more practical and helpful for the modern age. So I do the 10. And I'll kind of teach you a little bit as I'm going along because I can't help it. My blueprint, I'm very teacher oriented. So hopefully if you're in this channel, you like that. So let's go ahead and get to your messages. But first I want to share with you your significator card. It's the star. So this is telling me that this is all about hope, rejuvenation, renewal, and destiny. So that's already a little hint about this collective. Okay, we're getting right into destiny. So I'm going to start flipping everything over. And I do reversals with tarot. I started with reversals in my tarot journey, even though a lot of people told me not to. And the reason being is because I think that sometimes the reverse card has a specific nuance that you just cannot get just from an upright card. So that's why I do reversals. Okay, let's take a look at it. So the number 1 card in the middle represents your present situation, and the one on top of it represents the challenge. And already I have 3-3. And if anybody, when I sat down to do this reading, it was 4-4-4. So if that's something you've been seeing a while, this message is definitely for you. And I'm also seeing the master number 33, which adds to 6, which is harmony. But I'm seeing the 3 of Swords in the middle. I was like, oh my gosh, did you guys not hear me talk about, do you see my heart bleeding on the floor? Like, is it visual? Because my psychic surgery this weekend was very, very intense. And I'm like, guys, you too? So what I might be hearing from this in this collective, there's been some crying or some purging of the heart in some way. And the fact that we have the 3 of Pentacles, this tells me the reason being it's on behalf of your craft. It's on behalf on you being a creator of life. So this tells me, again, I'm talking to a very powerful collective that signed up to be a creator of realities. In order to do that, there's a lot of initiations, and it's a very epic hero's journey to be a creator and to come here to do your magnum opus, your great work, which is represented as the 3 of Pentacles, something that you are commissioned by the divine to do upon this earth. And when I say create, it can be a specific craft. It can be things like writing, music, content creator, woodworking. I mean, you can put craft in so many different ways, but sometimes it's just as simple as crafting your life, being a manifester and working in craft. Like if you're a part of this collective, I am also consider myself to be a witch, a magician, a mystic. And so I practice my craft, and I do that by balancing my energetic body within with all the elements. I work with the elements, I work with spirit, and I visualize and vocalize in order to manifest my reality. So that's telling me that I am a part of a collective that is the same. So the reason why there's been some heart surgery that's happened for this collective is because it's tied to your craft. So let me kind of show you. A lot of people shudder when it comes to the Three of Swords because obviously it's swords stabbed in the heart. And it is, I have to say, it's a very sharp feeling. So when you're dealing with emotions, when you're tuning into your body, somatically, it's going to feel very sharp. That's because a deep wound is being purged. So something like that happened with this collective recently, and psychic surgery took place. And I'm curious if some of you guys dealt with some visitations as well. So last night before I went to bed, I had a spirit visitation, and it was of a darker energy, and that does not mean bad. This is not that channel. It was shadow energy, and I got visited by a shadow dog in my dream, and that tells me that really deep shadow work was being exorcised and surgically removed. And what does this mean? This means that this collective, at some point in your life, you've dealt with venomous people. You have inherited some kind of poison, some type of shadowy energy. And usually shadow energy means somebody who was highly wounded and did not heal themselves. They took it out on you in some way. A poisonous dart could have been thrown at you recently by somebody. You could feel it was distorted. There was something off about it. That is shadowy. When you have just systemic generational wounding and patterns of negativity, that also has venom. And so it's like exercising that venom that's within you because you can't take it with you moving forward. So like, it was like a veil that was removed for you so that you see more clearly about where this poison is coming from. So you got a lot of greater visibility into it. And I did too. It showed up in my dreams. It came from that visitation, and it came from a phone call, literally from somebody that was part of me psychically removing them from my energetic field. So yeah, but it wasn't easy, right? Because usually these are familial bonds or relationship bonds. It's things that we are tied very emotionally to. So that's kind of telling me that's something that took place, and it's all in the name of your craft. So this is telling me you up-leveled in some way. Do you see those three rays coming down on these three people building a temple? So a lot of people, the Three of Pentacles is also called building the temple, but what a lot of people don't know until they do an extensive study of tarot, know that in Kabbalah and Hermeticism and deep mysticism, building the temple means building the temple within. That's where everything is born in the astral realm before it becomes physical reality. So the most important thing for someone who practices craft is your inner temple. So this is telling me that something was exercised for your inner temple and your foundation so that you can continue on in your mastery. Because what I'm seeing that you're heading into is practically a brand new era. So I'll get to that in a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. The Celtic cross that I particularly love has the bottom card in the cross represents what is unconscious, and it's something you're not aware of. And then on the top card is something that you are conscious of. And I'm going to start with what you are conscious of, and then that is the Six of Swords reversed. And the reason it is reversed is telling me that you understand that you have crossed the threshold, and that you are living in a higher vibration with higher mastery, greater responsibility, and leaving a lot behind. Like, this feels very epic in terms of what you're heading into. And obviously it has to do with destiny. That's why it's so charged. Like, this is everything that you've been preparing for. And so the Six of Swords reverse means that the passage has been complete. And I think everyone here in this collective, this is what we're conscious of. So I don't think we really need to get into that. But I also like to talk about the other part of the Six of Swords that a lot of people don't talk about. And that, yes, it usually talks about physical travel, but it also talks about staying rooted over emotional waters. Because the six, even though it's the swords and it does with air element, you see the water that surrounds it. So it's about navigating those emotional waters as you're heading into the new era. It could make you very vulnerable, it could make you very sensitive. So it's like really important to ground your mind as you're going through this emotional movement. So this is telling me that this is very tied to your feelings, your emotions, your deep wounds. And that's always very watery. And then what you may not be aware of is the Eight of Swords reversed. Now this one I almost like have a bone of contention with. And so not many people can do this unless they have been doing divination for as long as I have, which has been over 20 years. And I start to know when a shuffle's gone wrong. And I know when a card snuck in that doesn't belong. So I'm gonna reshuffle for this card, just because at this point, my intuition is very quick. And I'm gonna go ahead and replace that card that I think just kind of snuck in. But I'm gonna put it to the side, just in case we do need it. All right, what actually, that's exactly right. Okay. This is what you are not aware of. And we have the Lover's card. And what on the surface, I think you understand that this era that you're moving into is about you doing your work, you doing your craft, but on way below the surface, this is about companion energy. This is also about divine union. That's why we have the Lover's card and the tree. And what was interesting is I've been getting visions of the tree after my psychic surgery. So I think this collective must be experiencing that too. What does that mean? It means this psychic surgery is really going really deep into the roots, almost like this was a final veil. So I'm curious if anyone listening saw something that they kind of knew, but they weren't ready to know yet, and it was revealed to you recently. It may not be everyone, and please, if it doesn't completely resonate, toss it out, but I am curious about that. I love, oh wow, guys. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's a number 17 etched into the tree. And I want you to look at our significator card that we drew is number 17, the star. So underneath the surface, this is destiny. So this is destiny of divine union, and this is destiny of a companion for you. So for those of you that are already in a relationship, I'm going to be absolutely bluntly honest. This might mean that there is a greater pairing for you. If you are not in one, that means that your divine counterpart is very nearly coming in and you're not consciously aware of that. Or maybe you like push that so far away and you're like, what? No. But that is what I'm hearing, because your union with the divine has just been upgraded. So I'm curious if anyone in this collective, have you been growing closer in your sacred connection with the divine? Because this is meeting the divine as equal partners and no longer as seeing it as above yourself. That to me is the ultimate divine union, when you start to understand the original supreme intelligence, what their pain was, what they did in order to create, and what it meant to give someone free will so that they choose you again and to love you beside you as equals. And that is what's so amazing about this collective, is this is telling me that you are at that level where you can be partners with the divine and you don't have to check in as if it's an authority. And that is the great love story that we all are trying to come back to remember, to recover, so to return. So this is telling me you may not realize what is happening recently is really big energy. It's you coming into closer union with the divine as partners, not as authority above yourself. And this means equal partnerships and reciprocity in your relationships in your life. So a lot of that psychic purging was you drawing closer to the divine and greater trust with yourself and your relationship with the divine. And that means relationships are now going to be matching you in equality and in reciprocity. So that was a big part of what was happening this past couple of days in terms of purging. Okay, so that is what you're unconscious of. Maybe now you're aware. Whoa, big deal. Now I'm looking at what is falling away from your life and what is coming in the near future. So I have the Knight of Swords in the past. Oh, this is getting me kind of emotional. Crap. Okay. Let me show you the story that I'm looking at right now. You have the energy of weeping and the swords and heartbreak. It's been a really hard journey. And then we have in the past over here, the Knight of Swords. Now, normally in the past position, if it was upright, I would say there's still energy to be slayed, but the fact that it's reversed is telling me there are no more heads of the dragon to cut off. That means that you have cut off all of the poison, all of the stuff in your energetic field that does not belong. And it's really hard to do that because you have to go really far back. You have to open that door that you don't want to open because it hurts too much. And this because it gives you absolute clarity into your life and how things unfolded, where things were unjust, where things were unfair, where you were passed over, looked over, diminished. And it's not easy to do. And this is telling me there's no more dragons to slay, but it is deeply painful. There is a grieving period that is happening right now, and you might be feeling the next couple of days, but this is it. This is what is making me kind of emotional, is the Eight of Pentacles. Now, the Celtic cross has different imagery than some of the tarot, but this is basically saying that you did this because you've done the work and you've worked so hard. This is telling me this collective, my God, what you were given, and we talk about this on this channel all the time, but it always amazes me, is just how much you have alchemized, how much you have checked in with the divine and moved forward and stayed true to your heart. And this is saying, like, you're tired. And it's, you know what? It's time to just now receive what is meant for you with more ease. I'm hearing it's like the psychic surgery that was done it was she who endures. That's who you were before. He who endures. That's being cut off. And now it's more she who gets ease, or he who gets ease, or grace. This is grace and mercy and not having to work as hard as you had to before. And it's basically saying things that you have done in the past, all of those threads are now weaving back to you because now you're ready to hold it and everything is clear. Oh, it's a tough energy, guys, but it's also absolutely heartbreakingly beautiful. Bittersweet. Okay, so let's kind of recap this final line. So this is your advice, is this card, and we have the Sun. Oh, I love that. The Sun always to me is positivity, it's radiance. It means your light has grown and that it's starting to emit, and you magnetize and attract and you bring that light into everything that you do. And that is why things are going to be going well for you and why the field is going to be responding. I tell this to this collective all the time. And I'm really drawn to those sunflowers. So I don't know if somebody here loves sunflowers. But that sun energy is your advice. And when I hear the sun is your advice, that means like everything is so positive. There's no more dragons to slay. Like it's done. It's so done. Ugh, I love that for you guys. So here's the external influences. Ooh, guys, the Queen of Swords reversed. So I've been doing tarot readings professionally for over 16 years, and sometimes you start to see patterns, and I start to develop my own language with the cards based on repeated patterns with using the tarot. And you'll find if you read tarot to certain cards, you may have your own meaning of them that kind of differ from what the meanings are. And the Queen of Swords reversed to me is always narcissistic parent. So narcissistic parent or narcissistic family members or systemic narcissism that is played out, that has created patterns in your generation or your familial line. Specifically, the Queen of Swords goes to mother. It doesn't necessarily have to be narcissism, but it means that there was no softness in your life. There was no safety. There was no protection, not in the way that you needed to, because maybe you became the parent and that was simply not okay. So there seems to be some type of transgressions in the mother bond that I'm seeing that is outside of your control. And I'm also seeing that narcissistic systems there. And you might have seen that played out in narcissistic relationships. And that's all part of this line in the Celtic cross. And that's why I love the Celtic cross, because it shows you patterns. But here's the past of slaying the dragon, because you had so many dragons to slay in your ancestral line, really exercising that heartbreak and the pain, not only yours, but the pain that's been through generations. Like, you're basically having to heal everybody's, yay. And this was all in terms of your craft, because now we've got two cards that are talking about craft and work. So this is because you have something that you are meant to do, a magnum opus, a great work, a craft. It's what you're here to do in mission with the divine. So that generally means that this collective means they come through with a lot of familial relationships. And this is telling me your journey, that ancestral journey, is tied. And I must be speaking to a lot of people that must come to this video often, because I recognize this energy, I recognize these blueprints, and it typically means really harrowing, really difficult families of origin, because it was absolutely needed in terms of your resurrection in order to be at this level of power and manifestation. So that's something that was outside of your control, and you actually might be dealing with a little bit of that. Part of your exercising is some of that poison that is from those narcissistic patterns or abusive patterns in your family of origin or in relationships. Okay, your last two cards. This is called the Hopes and Fears. And I have the Three of Wands reversed, which is telling me that some of you might have had moments where you're like, oh my God, what if everything I've done, all this work of never giving up and keeping going, I'm exhausted and tired, what if nothing ever happens? Whew, that only happens, like that level of heartbreak and that level of fear only happens right before things are starting to flood in. So I just want you to know that it is, now that's the guide that came in the beginning. This is what they really wanted me to emphasize to whoever's listening. It's going to happen. It is inevitable. You signed up for this journey. It's as natural as a tree growing, like to the height and to the type of tree it was always meant to. It is absolutely natural. But this is the final piece to the puzzle that is freeing you to finally get to start doing your work and to be rewarded for it and to have that heaven on earth. It will happen. I promise you. And this is not just from me, this is from some ancestors here and some guardians. So it will, I promise. And here's the future. Now this is something that I'm seeing the Five of Pentacles. And the reason I'm really glad, because I have my own language with the Five of Pentacles that is different from everybody else's. And for me, it's about coming in from the winter. It's about coming in from the cold and warming yourself by the fire. This means that not only are you now experiencing ease and effortlessness and your reward and the nourishment and the mercy from the divine, like your abundance, you're also no longer letting yourself stay out in the cold. If you notice there's an opportunity for you to take advantage of, you do it. You vocalize your needs. You say what you want, and you say it from a sovereign place, because you're at a level of mastery now that you can assess whatever is happening in your life. And you're like, what is the best choice I can make for myself? What is the masterful stroke that I can make in this moment to get myself out of the cold and warm myself by the fire? And here, what I think is so interesting, the moment that we now say, I will no longer suffer in silence, is the moment things just start becoming easy and we don't have to ask. Isn't that the irony? Man. Well, let's kind of sit here as I kind of wrap things up for you and just see if I can see a summary. Wow. Mostly what I see with this collective is just the epicness of the journey and how rare all of you guys are, and the level of energy and vibration at your disposal, and the rare relationship that you have with the divine. Not everybody has this level of capacity to hold. And if you think about that, the original supreme intelligence, how much capacity they have to hold everything in love and in faith and in trust. It's a lot, right? And you are so close to that divine energy on this earth, the closest I think that many of us will ever experience. And that is rare. That is Christ consciousness. That is Jesus. That is Mother Mary. This is an ascended master energy. That's why you're doing your master craft. And that is why you are here. So it's very rare energy. And with very rare energy comes the most challenging, the most impossible journeys you can imagine. So I want you to know that you've done the impossible and that you're going to show others how to make the impossible possible. You are a living testimony to that. And my heart goes out to you because I can see some of the psychic energy and the initiations that you had to purge. And I know that's a lot. But I just want you to know that I'm here with you and I know exactly how it feels and how difficult it is and how sometimes it's just you in your own home dealing with some of this existential pain of centuries and having to alchemize it and transmute it for the good of not only you, but the generations that came before you and the generations to come. You are legendary. All right, guys. Thank you for allowing me to do a Celtic cross. I was not prepared. As you know, there's a lot of energy. And I was like, I feel a lot of myself in this as well. So, as always, the flame in me walks beside the flame in you. And may you rise in joyful fire.